Okay, so if you want official Switch 2 information from Nintendo around their reveal and launch time, this video is not that. However, there is a lot of information you can look at online that is publicly verifiable. There is shipping customs data that does have to get reported publicly, and people that have become mega Nintendo fans and sleuths of the internet over the years have figured out a way to keep up with this data and essentially find out when Nintendo is sending mass components to assemblers that they contract to put together things like their next generation console hardware, and this can give us some indication on when Nintendo may be planning to launch this system, because while we are still waiting for any kind of first look trailer, we have seen this very weird announcement where Nintendo announces they're going to make an announcement back in May of this year. Then we had them update at their most recent financial briefing that the system itself will for sure be backwards compatible with our current library of Switch games, and that Nintendo Switch Online will be rolling forward. And it was also confirmed that Nintendo will still plan to make an announcement of this console, meaning that little update tweet was not an announcement in this fiscal year, which for Nintendo's calendar ends March 31st, 2025. So those are the facts, and that's when we know we're going to hear something from Nintendo. But we've also had Nintendo mention these different strategies that they plan on doing with this console, such as mitigating scalping as much as possible. And one way that Nintendo plans to do that is just to truly mass produce this console at a level that will make it hard for scalpers' business to actually work out. So essentially, if you can find this thing easily at launch day, you're probably not going to have a huge scalping problem online. And we now have some more updated shipping data that does suggest that Nintendo is sending hundreds of thousands of the NVIDIA T239, which will be the processing chip believed to be in this console. NVIDIA reported a surge on their most recent financial investor briefing from a gaming partner that now lines up with exact shipment data that we see that is being sent to one of Nintendo's assemblers. And while there's been previous reports that make us believe that Nintendo at the very least is getting ready for mass production or mass assembly, it's essentially in mass production, I believe you can conclude. But what we don't know is if it's actually in that assembly stage, because Nintendo themselves in their own financial documents have showed historical highs for work in progress inventory, which essentially means if you're putting certain components together but it's not a finalized project yet, it is work in progress inventory. And if you've kept up with the shipment data over the previous months, we've started to see in most recent months, and this is delayed, we are looking at like September, August, and even July data where we started to see these numbers spike up, and now they're spiking up massively. So if it continues in that direction, we are going to be in a mass assembly situation very soon for sure. But the reason why all of this info and data is very exciting is because it does suggest that if Nintendo is ramping up their production to these levels right now as of September of 2024, and we are in December at this point in time, one, we may already be in mass assembly and production, and Nintendo's doing all of that stuff behind the scenes right now. But two, it largely suggests that they are absolutely planning for a first half 2025 console launch, and not that feared possibility that could be Nintendo waiting all the way until the fall or holiday season of next year to actually bring their next generation hardware to market. So we're going to break down exactly what's been discovered here. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we have to first kick off this conversation by hopping over to Universo Nintendo, where they do have a write-up from a Family Boards user these are the sleuths that go out there and do the direct hard work themselves. There's essentially shipment data online that you can pay a premium subscription for and get a manifest of what kind of components are being sent to Nintendo's suppliers. So you can first see this article, which reads, and keep in mind, this has been machine translated from Portuguese, but it says Switch 2 NVIDIA's grandiose SoC shipments to Nintendo's contracted automaker reinforces mass production indication. RAM modules and various other components passed hundreds of thousands in September. User LIC, known mainly on the Family Boards forum, continues to gather information about these shipments, and in a new survey already published on the forum and authorized by him for our sharing here on Nintendo Universe, reported that NVIDIA would have shipped more than 836 units. Now, I want to point out in the actual post, it says 816,000 units specifically, so not just 836, but rather 816,000 is what comes from the actual post. If you look at it, I'll have both of these linked in the description down below, but to look at that actual post, you need to be a registered Family Boards user. But obviously we are not talking about hundreds, we're talking about hundreds of thousands here. So of the T239 SoC system on a chip to a single Nintendo contracted automaker in Vietnam, according to data collected until September September 2024. The SoC has already been taken for granted to integrate the Nintendo Switch 2, and the large number of shipments may be an indication that factories are preparing for the assembly of the system while mass manufacturing its components since at least the end of September this year. Thractor, another forum user, estimated that Nintendo has dispersed around 47 million to Nvidia for the production and delivery of the SoC in this batch that will integrate into its new console, reinforcing the positive results that the company reported for its recent fiscal quarter, mainly indicating the gaming sector that unites its graphical cards and cards for dedicated consoles. The company only supplies components of this type to Nintendo. LIC also pointed out in its own research that more components registered significant shipment numbers until September of this year, such as RAM memory modules, 803,000 units, divided between manufacturers Micron, Samsung, and Hynix, in addition to UFS storage, 290,000 units, divided between suppliers Kioxia and Hynix. It is expected that the next report of shipments between factories/assemblers that should be in early December, covering the numbers recorded in October, will bring news regarding the mass production or assembly of the new Nintendo console. Stay tuned. So this is yet another concrete data point that we can look at and see just a massive jump up of Nintendo supplying all of their assemblers, which this is one of multiple assemblers they have all the way around the world, mind you. So 800,000+ SoCs shipped to one particular spot. That would suggest that we are talking about ramping up the production of Switch 2 to millions and millions of units at this point in time. This is as of September in 2024. So if you roll that forward, and we're talking about actually at the time of filming being in the month of December, it is highly likely that at this point in time, Nintendo is already in that millions plus production per month. And the kind of estimated rumored number that we've heard floated around, which remains to be proven, but we're hearing something like 2.75 times what Nintendo launched the worldwide shipments with of the Switch 1, which would essentially boil down to roughly 6.75 million units. That's essentially what Nintendo may be aiming for to supply the market with in its launch month for their upcoming console. And again, this should not be a surprise. This is literally what Furukawa has said would be their precise plan in order to really almost flood the market with Switch 2s, because they want to mitigate scalping as much as possible and meet market demand. And you look at some of the numbers that are out there for Nintendo today, such as their console being over 146 million units successfully sold in the current generation, and then we have those numbers like active Nintendo account users with a Nintendo Switch, meaning people who have logged in. That number's well over 127 million. So that's how many people are still logging in and playing a Switch right now. And with this console being officially 8 years old in March of next year, like a full 8 years will have passed since this console launched, there is a ton of people that are ready to go pick this up day one. And while not everybody will do that, and you'll still have plenty of Switch games to play on your current console, Nintendo knows that there's going to be a lot of day one purchasers lined up and ready to go, so they want to meet market demand or come as close to, and that would mean that they're going to get millions and millions of console units ready to go before they launch this thing. What will be interesting is just how long do they wait in terms of stocking up this production and having all of this millions of units sitting on hand before they actually reveal the thing, because what history has shown us is that when things go into mass assembly in these giant factories, and you have, thousands and thousands of employees around the world, somebody gets that clever idea that even though it's technically putting their job on the line, to snap a cell phone picture and upload it online, and then we see things like the casing of a console before we got any kind of official reveal. You might remember that the Nintendo Switch Lite, there were actual pictures floating around of that console shell before Nintendo revealed such a product. And this could very well happen again with the Switch 2. We've already had a prototype unit leak out there that appeared to be legit. That seemed to be from the end of 2023. And that's where we got that first look at the main board and all of the kind of, it's going to be a Switch 2. That's going to be one thing to remember. Nintendo's not going for a drastic reinvention here. They're going to stick with what works this time around, even calling it the successor to the Nintendo Switch themselves. Whereas if you look at their wording on previous console generations that have been like a big leap in some kind of different technology, they don't use that successor terminology as much. They use like more drastic language to insinuate indicate that it's a very different new thing from Nintendo. So it seems to me like at the end of this year, towards the beginning of next year, it's going to be a race against leakers potentially taking photos of assembling this console versus when does Nintendo actually drop that first look trailer. There's some talk about maybe the Game Awards. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm very much in the mindset that the earliest we will see this console is in the month of January 2025. But again, if you just want to err on the side of caution and say when's the latest Nintendo could reveal it, according to their own words, that is March 31st, 2025. And so we'll have to see if all the rumors out there about a January reveal and a March launch are true or not. But I do think that that first half 2025 is looking that much more solid with this evidence. And I think, you know, before June of next year seems to be very likely based on what we are seeing with the shipment data, but nothing is confirmed until Nintendo confirms it. So let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this newest report with shipment data suggesting that Nintendo's ramping things up, over 800,000 SoCs of the T239 being sent to their suppliers. Do you think this is good evidence and an indication that a first half console launch next year is very likely? Which month do you think Nintendo will bring the console to market? Or do you think that even though Nintendo's ramping up stock in a big way, that there's still a shot that we won't see it launch until later into the fall or holiday season in 2025? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.